Hey everybody, Stacy with Lenz Sport once again. Welcome back for the last installment video on our how to tune and wax your ski bike skis. This is the last video on how to do the process. So just to recap, the first step was tuning the side and base edges. Second step was detuning the tips and tails and doing a slight detune of the side and base edges. Third step was waxing the base. Now we're going to show you how to scrape off the excess wax. I have two different kinds of scrapers. I have a metal scraper and a plastic scraper. I use both of them. You'll notice that my plastic scraper has a corner cut out or a notch cut in. This is really good for getting the wax off of the edges. It just makes it a little bit easier. So the easiest way to do this is when you do the edges, you want to go with the side that you're not going to be scraping the side, you want to use the ends and not the side that you're going to be using to scrape the base with. So we'll go ahead and start with this one. So what I do is I turn it up on edge. And I just use my scraper and I come in and get rid of the excess wax on the sides. Get all that ugly stuff off. Flip it around. If you leave a little bit on, it's not the end of the world. So don't feel like it has to be absolutely perfect. All right. Now I'm going to lock it in with my vise. Try it this way. There we go. All right. We're just going to come in and do the same thing on the base edges. You'll notice that I've got a packing blanket down on the floor. It just comes in handy with the cleanup because this is kind of a messy process. And especially if you have carpet, it can be kind of hard to get wax chunks out of carpet. So this kind of comes in handy if you've got packing blanket or towels or an old sheet. Cut up trash bags will work. Anything you can put down on the floor to help. All right, in case you're wondering how you do this with the metal scraper, it's the same way. You just want to be careful that you don't go too far. And you can see that I'm still pulling up a little bit. I'm trying really hard to not get into the base. Because the last thing that you want to do is gouge the base. Or nick the edges. So if you're using the metal scraper to remove the excess from the edges, try to be careful and not gouge the edges that you just worked hard to make nice and pretty and sharp. All right, so the purpose of scraping off the wax is to give it a nice even surface. You'll notice that it's still a little bit bumpy and chunky and rocky and groovy. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna start, it doesn't really matter if you go tip to tail or tail to tip. I'm just gonna work this direction. So I'm gonna apply even pressure on my scraper and you'll notice that there's gonna be some wax that scrapes up with it. That's one thing that I like about the Mountain Flow Eco Wax is that it doesn't really scrape, or there's really not a whole lot of excess to scrape because it works itself so evenly and into the base so well that there's just not a whole lot to scrape up. And you're just going to do 2 or 3 or 4 passes until you have a nice even surface. This is also the process that you would use if you are removing old wax prior to applying new wax. You would just want to use a scraper to remove all of the existing wax. On that note of removing existing wax, if you think you've got it all up, you can always check by using your iron and a paper towel. So once you've removed all the wax that you think that you can, take your iron, heat it up, run it over the base, and it will melt any existing wax. Then you would use the paper towel while it's still wet to remove that wet old wax to give yourself a nice clean base. You just want to make sure that you clean it off with alcohol or some kind of a base prep before applying your new wax. The last step is to grab a paper towel and just kind of polish it up, if you will. All right. Now I'm just going to take it out. And I'm going to remove any of these little waxy bumps that I have. Like that little dude is going to go bye-bye. Really nothing there. And this part is just purely cosmetic. Keeps your skis looking a little bit better. Also makes it look like you know what you're doing. All right, I think that's about it for how to tune and wax your skis. I hope this helped. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us at the shop. And there's always YouTube University if there's anything that was confusing. Happy shredding, deep pow, and great turns. Hope to see you on the slopes.